Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining us again. Wonder how many of you are joining us again from the first session. This is session 2. So we're covering session 2 for intermediate teachers. This is session 2, language and context grammar. Nice to hear you again. Okay, we have over 500 people who have joined us, so we can give it a start. But just making sure you're in the right place. We are covering Super Bowl 1, 3, and 5, and we're in the second session. So there are 5 sessions for these. Some people are asking if they've joined the first session and they want the link for the second one. In order to get the link for the second one, you will have to register for the second one. And likewise, there are 2 sessions tomorrow. So we have session number 3 at 10 a.m. and session number 4 at 1 p.m. If you are looking to join these sessions, you will have to register for the webinar. You will be then receiving the link. Quickly going to drop this off in the chat box for you. In case you have not registered, you can register here. Got ahead of myself and tried to cover that beforehand because I know people face issues with registrations and login. So we just want to make sure we cover that for you and make it easy for you. I've covered also, I've covered a training session for registration and login. This session I covered yesterday at 9 a.m. It was recorded. So you might be able to ask for the recording from your administrator because they have this. It talks about how you can register for the webinar. So it shows you exactly how you can select all 5 sessions that are on the registration page and write your name and everything. But I think I've spoken a lot, but I don't know if my sound is audible. So quick sound check if you can hear me. I'm just going through the chat box if you can hear my voice. Nice to hear you again. Okay, that means you should be okay. There's also a hand icon on the right side of your screen. It should be just below your name. You can click on the hand icon. I will give you a minute to locate that. Brilliant, very engaging. You guys can hear me already. Moving on to the moderators for today, you know the drill already. It's me, Serish, my colleagues, Minerva, Nikos, Medini, and Nasir. We're in the background to sort of help you out with any questions you have or any trouble you face during the webinar, your audio, or anything in general that you need to know. We're here to sort of help you out. And of course, we have our wonderful trainer, Danai, who has joined us again for this session, which is session 2 for intermediate teachers. And Danai needs no introduction by now, but yeah, she's a teacher educator. She's a content developer, and moreover, she's an author. So she's also co-authored Saudi editions, and she's successfully delivered several training workshops for supervisors and teachers in Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Danai, for your valuable time and joining us today.
Thank you.
Danai usually refers to a handout during the session. So we have handouts that we have shared before, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat box, or one of my lovely moderators can do that while I look for the link. We're doing session 2 today, so there are 4 handouts in this link. You can download all these handouts, by the way, so you should be able to get all the handouts for the sessions. And you can get the handout, you can download them. She refers to them quite some time, so make sure you have these handouts. If you've missed the session by chance, for the first one, we are also sharing the handout for the first session, so you have both of these with you then. Other than that, okay, there you go, that's sorted. So that's handout number for session 1 that we covered at 10. And now we're doing session 2. Sorry, I keep repeating myself because people keep joining and I want to make sure that they hear us and they don't miss up anything. Moving on to our housekeeping slides. So once you are in the WebEx meeting, you'll have to ensure that you're connected to the audio. So you'll have to make sure that you're connected to the audio, and you can connect to the audio by either using your phone or your audio, and it will just show you. It's very clear, I can see. Thank you. I'm just reading out, sorry. Oh, it says, okay, great. So we're sorted there. And the other thing is some people cannot see the screen or having issues with the connection. So we recommend that you close down any high networking apps such as Netflix, YouTube, any gaming platform, as this is going to affect your bandwidth during the webinar. So make sure that you close this down. Very important question about certificate of participation. You will receive the certificates for the sessions that you've attended, but you will receive this after the webinar series for first semester course book is over. So this week we're covering intermediate, and next week we are going to cover secondary. So once this is all over, which is I think November 19th, we will be able to send out certificates to all of you. You will receive it via email. So it's the same email that you have registered for, which is why we stress 3 things when you register. Number 1 is make sure you spell your name correctly as you want it on the certificate. Second, make sure you write this in English and not Arabic. Unfortunately, the system doesn't recognize Arabic. And the third thing is to ensure that your email address is correct for you to receive the right links for the webinar and also your certificate of participation. And I think there's also a fourth thing actually. The fourth thing is not to use your colleague's link, because then your certificate will have your colleague's name, because that's how it's all automated. So please try to use the link that is unique to you. We will have Q&As in the end. We cover them towards the end of the session, and usually we run over an hour. So you can stay back if you want to, but if you've got classes, you have urgent matters to get to after the session, please feel free to leave. But we will be here staying back answering any Q&As that you have dropped off in the Q&A box or the chat box. Moving on, the difference between the Q&A and the chat box, I'm just going to cover that. So for the Q&A box, that's also on the right side, the last box that you see, this is for any questions that you have for the presenter. We will pick this up after the session is over. So we do a Q&A towards the end. And then there's the chat box. The chat box is mostly for comments or engaging with the presenter. Then I read things from the chat box usually, so she goes over all of that. And so that's the difference between both these things. FAQs, I just want to quickly cover this because some questions come up a lot regarding this, and I can see them coming as well right now in the chat, so it's good that we can cover this all along. You are being marked present and in this session automatically. So you don't need to mark yourself present. The system automatically picks that up. So we know what time you joined in, when you log off. It's all, sorry, it's all right. So you don't have to mark yourself present anywhere. You must have also noticed that you can only see your name on the right side. You will not be able to see all the other participants who have joined, who are 750 right now. So all the other participants who have joined, you will not be able to see their name. Unfortunately, that's because of GDPR purpose and privacy. The same way, you will not be able to view the comments that are in the chat box by your colleagues. So the chat box is enabled. You are free to talk. You might think it's hidden or enabled, or you are not able to find it. Just click on it and you will be able to write it. On the chat box, it's just you cannot see as a public chat. You can only see your name or your comment. But Dana is so kind that she sends out all of this. She reads out comments for you so you know what's going on. But yeah, that's it. I guess, and the other question I've received is some people are asking in the chat box now that I registered 2 days before. Do I need to register again, or I've registered before? You do not need to register again if you have already registered. Please avoid to register again, because what's going to happen is you're going to take up seats. We only have limited, so we have 1,000, and you're going to take up seats for your colleagues. So if you have already registered and you have received the link, the same link is going to work for you. You don't have to register again. You can register all together for all 5 sessions. You will receive 5 different registration links. So, or confirmation links. Every link is unique. So this means that the 10 a.m. session, the 10 a.m. link is not going to work for the 1 p.m. link. So you must have received 5 different confirmation emails. You will only receive the confirmation email for the session you register. So if you have only registered for 10 a.m. session, you are not going to have the rest of the links. So we encourage that you register for all of them. And also, there are 2 kinds of emails that you receive. So you must be receiving the confirmation email that goes out right away when you register. But on the day of the webinar, you also receive the reminder email. The reminder email is just like sent to you to say, oh, hi, today is your webinar, please don't forget, something like that. You can use any of those links. Both those links will work. So you can either use the one in the confirmation email or you can use the one in the reminder email. I think I've covered, no, Khalid, you're not the only one here. I promise there are 764 people along with you, but like I said, you can only see yourself. You won't be able to see other people because of GDPR purpose. I'm just trying to check if I have missed out on anything else that is important to cover. I think I've already said don't use your colleague's link, use the link that I cannot hear sound. If you can go on the settings. Can one of the moderators please assist on the sound? You need to connect to the sound to hear the sound. No, you do not need to register again. If you've registered, you have received the confirmation link. Just use the same link to log in. Yes, if you've registered and you show up in the webinar, so registration is not enough to entitle your attendance to the webinar. If you attend the webinar, that is when your attendance is marked. Just read a comment from the chat box. So it's going to be marked if you attend the session, not when you register for the session. Sorry, give me a minute to just go through before I just hand over to Danai. Apologies, Danai, I'm just trying to cover this. Yes, if you're in the session, you are marked present. I guess I've covered everything else for now. All right, without any further delay, I am going to make you the presenter so you can share your screen. And let me know when you can. Okay, Danai, over to you. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. Apologies for repeating myself again. Just wanted to make sure we covered it. Over to you, Danai.
Thank you. I don't know if this is going to work, actually, Sherry.
It's okay. We will try. Your slides are in here anyway, so but you can try. There's a share button on the screen. Is it enabled?
Yes, yes, I did use it. Okay.
I can see your slides move.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming back. Those of you who were here earlier this morning, welcome to the newcomers. Let me say now, I do appreciate that there are quite a few questions and quite a few comments that everybody wants to make. We'll do our best within the hour, but you do realize that it's not possible within the hour to cover the whole of methodology. So we'll do the best we can. But one of the ongoing sort of things, grammar, how do I teach grammar, is one of the things that we're going to spend time on, and a bit of time on vocabulary. So let me just go through some points to consider. We tend to use the same words but mean different things. Thank you for the comment. Okay. And sometimes it's good to check that we all mean the same thing. I'll be going back to that because this is language in context, and we will be talking about grammar and vocabulary mostly. This is one of the reasons that we don't want to deal with vocabulary through translation, The voice is not quite clear. Oh, I'm sorry about that. We'll do the best we can. Okay, this is one of the reasons that we don't want to deal with vocabulary on a one-to-one basis through bilingual lists. But just for our purposes, since we're all going to be talking about teaching, we do talk about context, but what exactly is context? I don't know if all of you have had the handout on context, on what context is. It was one of your handouts for the earlier session this morning. Okay, let me just go through. When we speak or write something, we communicate. Communication and the language we use to convey our message, feelings, etc., only have meaning when it is understood in context. Okay, and we need to know who the people are, the people who are talking, what we think the relationship is, or we know the relationship is, or who is the listener, reader, the setting, the place where they are, the purpose of the communication, the topic, and how they're communicating. If it is through spoken language, written language, and so on. Just very briefly. Can the rest of you hear, or do you have problems with sound?
I can hear you pretty okay.
Okay.
And I've read some comments in the chat box to say we can hear you. Your voice is clear.
Okay, thank you.
Clear.
Because I saw some comments about. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, just to try and illustrate that point. Does a single sentence on its own, like this, provide a context? No, I'm not going to stop. Okay. Please, can I have some answers to this? What do you think? Does a sentence provide a context? No. So if you see a sentence, no, a sentence cannot provide a context. It's just a sentence there. So we're taking the exam tomorrow. You can make all kinds of guesses, but do you know who is taking the exam? No. You might assume it's a student. Do you know how old that student is? Do you know if they're a secondary student, a university student, an intermediate student? No. Which exam? Okay. So there isn't really, you can't assign meaning to this. And which exam and how difficult is it? And what time of year is it? Is it a final exam? Is it midterm? What exactly is it? No, you don't know. And that's a problem. Okay, so this is why we need context. We need a more complete situation to present language in. Let's look quickly at another one. I was interviewed almost a month ago. Yes, more details is what you need. I was interviewed almost a month ago. Who is saying this? To whom? Talking about what? About a job? About an application to the university? No, it's completely open. You can imagine, but you might imagine something that is not valid. I was interviewed almost a month ago, but I haven't had an answer yet. Okay, you get a bit more information, but again, you don't know who is saying this to whom. Is it somebody who's applied for a job? It might be somebody who's applied for a job, talking to a friend, or to a friend of his, who's asked him about any luck, if he's had any luck looking for jobs and so on, and what happened in the last interview that he's had. And what he's saying is, I was interviewed almost a month ago, but I haven't had an answer yet. He hasn't heard from the company that he's applied to. But these are all things that we need to know to make sense of language. Again, yes, the context is required for the full comprehension of the text, for the full comprehension of the language. And it's the context that will give you the meaning of the form that you are teaching as grammar. Okay, let me carry on and we'll do more of that. This meaning of context, why grammar is presented without context. No, it's not presented without context. If you remember what we said earlier this morning, was that the main presentation was the listen and discuss, which provides the context. Yes, thank you. I know, but you got it. Okay, the reason I'm stressing that is because a lot of people assume that by just giving examples with the particular form that you want to teach, a tense, say, present simple or whatever, then that's teaching grammar. No, teaching grammar has to do with teaching a piece of the language, teaching grammar in context. And that gives us so many things because it shows learners when they can use it, how they can use it, to do what, to say what, about what, when, what the relationship of time is, and so on and so forth. Another point, is peer correction effective? Do you encourage your students? I saw something about intended message. I'm all for it. Provide meaning and clarity to the intended message. Absolutely. Unless, of course, there's a lot of implication and all that. Yes, is peer correction effective? Yes, all the time. Yes. It's better if you hand over to the students, try and encourage them to correct each other, to listen to each other. Yes, teaching grammar is teaching. No, it's not teaching about the language. It is teaching the language. We don't separate, unless what you're talking about is the traditional grammar translation, where you give people rules and you make them learn the rules and terms and so on. And yes, that would be teaching about the language. About, not the language. Grammar, no, isn't the most important lesson. It's one of the key goals. I'm not going to say it's not important. Of course it is if it's going to be one of the key roles, but it's not the only thing. One of the reasons this has become such an issue is, I think, going back to what a lot of people commented on and the comments that we've had about translation, and even a comment that we've had about grammar translation being a method. Yes, it is a method, but a very old method that was used to study classics, to study ancient Greek, to study Latin, to study old languages that are not being used, and then again to analyze language maybe later and do comparative studies and so on and so forth. But it's not something that helps people learn and use the language in context. And I'm trying, okay, rules to how to use the language are best dealt with with the students. Okay, let me carry on. Grammar is the soul of the sentence. Yes, well, the sentence is important, and if you break it down and you go for subject, verb, object, and so on, yes, of course it is, but you need to know what you're saying, when, how, and if you only have grammar and you don't pay attention to, say, vocabulary chunks, how words are put together and used, if you don't pay attention to appropriacy, how you address younger people as opposed to older people, and so on and so forth, then you can't really communicate very effectively with just grammar. And yes, I would go as far as saying that grammar is the framework upon which you hang things, maybe. But we all know that communication can be carried out with some very ungrammatical things. However, one who knows about grammar can't necessarily communicate very well. What you can do to encourage learners to listen to each other is call them out. If you're online, call them out by name, and get them to, as much as possible, work in pairs across class. In other words, if you have questions like questions that you have maybe in over to you and so on, instead of asking students to read the questions and answer individually about themselves, ask them to ask each other an answer, okay? And split the questions around, just to optimize the time. How can we work effectively in mixability classes? Well, if you work in an inclusive manner, you'll be able to work effectively in mixability classes. And one of the things that helps us is collaborative learning, working in pairs or groups. Now, again, I know that if you haven't got chat rooms, if you haven't got a function to help you organize work, collaborative work, to organize teams, pairs, groups, whatever you want to ask students to work together, and so that you can listen in to monitor, it's very difficult to work effectively in mixability classes. However, a couple of tips there. If you're working in a mixability class and you tend to, through lack of other functions when you're online, you tend to address students one at a time, or you have students address each other one at a time. Make sure you don't address students that are not confident first. Ask students who are not confident, tell them privately to listen very carefully to what other students are saying, that you're not going to ask them to begin with because they get terrified. So get them to listen to other people so they can then respond or do whatever you want them to do. Give them a chance, in other words, to listen to how people are expressing things or to how they're doing an exercise, and then address them. Okay. Why are sometimes students unwilling to answer a general question? This is something that came up actually yesterday, and it's an important point. If you have a question like, what's your favorite dish? Or what did you do last Saturday? And you just address it to the whole class, and you expect people to respond immediately, it's not going to happen. And if it happens, it's going to be the same one or two students who are going to shout out answers, and the rest will just not do anything. So train your learners to wait, listen, wait, okay? Write with the question that you want to address on the board, or key it in and show it on the screen when you're working online. If you have 2, 3 questions, whatever you want to do, to try and activate a topic or get them to start using their own knowledge, use what they remember from the language, but also use general knowledge, experience, and so on. Ask students to look at the questions, think for a minute, just a minute, think for a minute, and then nominate. Ask different people to suggest or ask for volunteers, okay? Don't always, try not to always reward the people who are faster at the expense of the rest. And just remember that if when I ask you a question like, as we're working now, right, sorry, Joy, I met you 6 years ago. Yes, in Baja. Hello. It's good to know you're here. So you'll be able to contribute then. Okay. So what do we mean by the word explain when we talk about teaching? No initiative to answer a general question. Yes, there is an initiative if you ask general questions to introduce a topic, but instead of lecturing them, basically you ask them something to get them to reflect on the topic and make their own suggestions. Involve the learners as soon as possible. We're talking about adolescents. If you don't want them to switch off, then you need to involve them. Understand grammar. A lot of them yet don't have a lot of vocabulary to make their own sentences. My question is, how can I help them with that point? That's a very good question. Thank you, Man. And what I would like to say there is, I'm going back to some of the points that we raised earlier this morning. You need to work according to the aims of each lesson. You shouldn't try and do everything at once, and try not to use everything to teach grammar. Okay, this is what I would say. Explain may mean clarify things to make it easy. Yes, fine, that makes sense. But people, for example, collocate explain with many things. So they say things like, explain grammar. There are no maximum number of goals. You have to look at the teacher's book. You're asking different questions. I'm afraid I won't be able to deal with them all at the same time. Yes, we're not the ones who have the information. We have to let the students look for information as well. Okay, you're asking for worksheets and all sorts of things. I'm sorry, this is a 1 hour session. The worksheets that you've got are worksheets for teachers, so they're for you, they're part of the training. Okay, can we help learners discover language? Can learners notice how and why forms change? What can we do to help? Yes, it's not the most important, according to this comment, but it teaches you the way of speaking if you want to speak. Not necessarily. It teaches you how to put language together in a way that is going to be accurate and hopefully appropriate. There are different aspects to that. Okay, when we talk about accuracy, we talk about grammatical, lexical accuracy. Let them listen to movies or conversations. Yes, fine. Yes, that's exactly what we've been saying. You have to do different things. Okay, so we're not forgetting about grammar. What we're saying is grammar gives you the structure of the language, yes? Okay, if you focus too much on grammar and disregard other skill development, disregard vocabulary, disregard discourse, disregard appropriacy versus accuracy, then you're not going to help learners speak. Requests for give different examples on what exactly. You have raised so many points. Yes, language and context means connected to real life. Yes, but not only. So if people haven't got the first, the handouts from the first session on context, do you think they might be able to have it? It's the second handout.
Yes, it's the second. I can share the links again in the chat box for you. It's handout number 2 in the first session. So let me just drop the link for you, and you will be able to download it then. Okay, there.
Thank you. If you look at it, there is a simplified, a very practical definition of context about who is speaking or writing to whom, what the relationship is, which will give us the different types of language, different genre. We're going to try and be you don't, for example, as we said before, you don't speak. You don't speak to somebody who is. You don't speak to your teacher the way that you speak to your mate, to your close friend, to your best friend, do you? If you make a mistake and you use language that's too formal with a friend, the friend will instantly think that you're very angry at him or something is very, very wrong, and vice versa. If you use very casual language with somebody who is older in a different position, they might be offended. Okay, that aspect of the language has to do with appropriacy. Do you think that if we teach grammar itself should be accurate? I'm not sure I can follow this one. Does writing skill depend on perfect grammar, or should I practice writing more? Okay, you've touched a very important point here. Grammar is important in written language, in some genres, not obviously in the kind of writing in chat boxes and so on that you will find on the web, because that's a different type of language. But if you want them to write an essay, then yes, you do want them to have correct grammar. So although in speaking you can get away with mistakes but still get your message through, and communication is successful, it doesn't always happen that way. It doesn't in fact happen that way if you make many mistakes in written language. Okay, so if you want to say, for example, to write to somebody, different examples for different forms, and let them discover the changes. Thank you very much. Yes, that's to clarify one of the questions. Examples, the comment about examples was, give the students different examples and let them discover through other skills. Yes, absolutely. And this is what you're supposed to be doing in Supergo. So just to remind you again, when you look at the first page, this one, for example, this gives you the initial context. the topic and the initial context, the theme rather of the unit, and the context. If you look at this here, okay, what do you see? You see a group of kids, and they're at the museum. Where are they? They're at the museum. Who is speaking to them? The guide. Okay. And what is he saying? Welcome to the museum. My name's so-and-so. I'm your guide. Okay, you have that on audio. But before you get there to listening to the guide and so on, and then getting to the, what's this? It's a radio. And what are those? They're calculators. Okay, this is a lesson on this, that, these, those. It's given in context, okay? You have two children here, two students here looking at things and asking what they are and so on. Remember, however, when you begin, get them to look at all the items, identify what they are, think of whether they're different from items that they use now, how technology has changed, not a lecture, just very quickly. So this is a context. This is the context of communication. The guide is addressing students who are visiting the museum. And this is what he's saying. There's a context here. Who is speaking to whom? This student is speaking to her friend. Okay? They're looking at something. She's asking her friend what it is because she can't figure it out. So this is what she says. They're speaking. They're not writing to each other, yeah? They're talking about the things in the museum. All right? That's all context. And this is what we need for meaning. This is why the author has provided this, has done it within this theme and in this setting, the museum setting, trying to make the questions of what's this, what's that, a little more meaningful, because I am covering grammar. You're trying to make it a little more meaningful because you know that your students at these levels are not beginners. Yeah, they've come across this type of language before. So this makes it meaningful. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Now, along the same lines, if you're going to use this lesson to present, oops, this is not mine actually. Okay.
You need to share your screen and do it from your, the presentation that you have.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No worries. Yep, then I am starting to share.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I can see there's a presentation. Yep.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The only problem is that this doesn't seem to be moving. Oh gosh. Not responding. Okay. Now it's responding.
Yeah, I think we'll just have to slideshow so we can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry about this. Okay, what I would do, whoops. then is show this. The picture. Okay, this is a very busy picture. It appears in your book, and it's used to present and practice present progressive, yeah, for actions that are happening at the moment of speaking. Can you all see it? Can you all see the picture? Should I make it bigger?
Yeah, we can see the picture, but it's a bit small. Okay, it's clear. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Should be all right.
Hang on. Okay. Is this any better?
Yes.
No. Okay. Right. So, okay. The other one has disappeared. Still. Okay, what I did in the first one that I tried to show you, and for some reason lost in the meantime, is I just copied the picture without any of the words on it. Because what I want them to do, what I want the students to do is look at it, figure out what it is. What do you think the people are doing on the left? Who are they? What kind of people can you see? You can see somebody holding a camera, yeah? Somebody else holding a mic, okay? So what are they making? What do you think they're making? Yeah, they're making a film. Okay, so get them, yes, guessing where they are. So this is the context. Yeah, the context is the set, making a film, yeah? Filming a scene. Yes, for discovery strategy. Okay, so go through the picture and get them to describe what each person is doing. So if you want to that way present the form yourself to begin with, please go ahead before the listening even. Okay, just describing. Okay, so what's this man doing? He's practicing. Okay, and what's this man doing? He's eating, and so on and so forth. And what about this man? What do you think is happening here? Why is he there? What's this person doing here? Okay, so point, if you're online, point to the different bits of the picture and get them to see exactly what's happening. And as they're happening, okay, elicit from the students who remember, who can tell you, repeat it, model it, get the students to say it again, and go back to, so can you see this? Can you see this? Is this man fighting? Is he fighting? What is he fighting with? The ladder? Okay, he's getting ready to fight. He's fighting, okay? Is he sitting? No, he isn't. When? Now, okay? But it's grammar. It's not just talking about the picture. As it happens, describing a picture requires the use of present progressive. So it's practical. And this is the reason we do it. Okay? Another option here for this one, I just wanted to show you. Split the picture into two. It's on 2 pages, yeah? There are different names. You will find notes about this in your teacher's guide as well. And people have to, one group, half the class have this, and the other half have this, okay? And what they need to do is listen to each other. You can do this after they listen to the audio. And then they take on the roles, listen to each other, and identify the people. Because the director is saying, for example, Kim Wang, what are you doing? It's not lunchtime yet. Okay, you can see who those people are. Okay, books. I'm looking for something that I can't find. No, that's wrongly. Why are you feeding the fish? Can you see anybody feeding the fish here? No, but you can see somebody feeding the fish here. I'm just trying to show you an information gap that you can use for further practice. So you can do different things with the actual context to get them to repeat the form again. You don't have to spend very long, but it's important for them to see when and how they can use the form. So can you see what's happening? Yes. Okay. If you want to also do a bit of mime online, to actually give them the idea of using it at the time of speaking, fine, because that's another use, yeah? Okay, and then if you want, you can carry on. The director is talking to all the actors. The rest of them are all actors. Okay, then you can carry on with the grammar summary, okay? This is a summary, right? You can ask them, even with the summary, you can go for discovery. Ask them to have a look, and I'd say when there is a change. What remains the same? What changes? Okay, so do it a little more interactively there and get them to think about it. Okay, a conversation to complete here, yes, but what you can get a lot of for this particular grammar item, what you need is pictures where things are happening and people can ask and answer things, can describe them, because that's what's going to give them the use. And as for different forms, well, they're fighting, okay? They're fighting. Right. What's he doing? He's listening. He's painting, yeah? He's painting the wall. So inevitably you'll get that. He's serving. Use pictures for this one. Not all grammar points are that handy when it comes to practice with pictures and so on, but this one is. Oops. Okay. I shall stop sharing now. Okay. Do you think it's better to teach students grammar first in each unit so they get to practice grammar in reading and listening topics? Well, this is the idea is that you do teach them this language item, the grammar, in this case, the unit that we saw, present progressive, among other things. And yes, they will, the rest of the material in the unit reuses the grammar anyway. In grammar summary, sometimes you have more than one grammar, meaning more than one item. Yes, sometimes when it's relevant, you will also have functions isolated. That is also language in context. You will also have, as you very rightly reminded us all, you will have words, you will have vocabulary appearing. Okay? Again, pictures. Do you need to translate when you say, okay, look at this picture, look at this person here. Who do you think he is? He's shouting. Look at what he's saying. He's a director. Okay? So director, you know who the director is. They're teenagers. They do watch things. Not all of them. No, yes, make them try to guess the meaning. Yes, of course. But they don't, it's not an open guess. They have very specific clues. They have the whole scene. They have the context. They can see this man shouting at various actors. These are the actors. Okay. Who tells the actors what to do? The director. Yes, you move gradually. What about making a scene inside the class for a couple of minutes to make it easy to understand the time? Absolutely wonderful if you're in class and you can do it. If you can do it, you can set up video and do it online like that, please do. This scene is great fun, actually, when the students adapt it. You can get a lot of mileage out of this lesson and do their own film scene. Yes. Most native speakers speak without knowing grammar, right? Yes. Ask about movies they like, yes. Will they immediately answer like what you're doing now? If you work along these lines, they will learn to answer. The most important thing is to discuss, and through discussion, they will use grammar and new vocabulary. Absolutely. So basically, we want to go through different skills. This is material that uses different skills, deals with language through skills, so you get listening, speaking, reading, writing, all the way through. The reason this is particularly short, this version of the slides, this version of the PowerPoint, is because this particular page is extremely heavy. Yes, because I tried this way with my students and seems their comprehension is much better than before when you get them to actually do things. Yes, absolutely. So the more active they are, the better it is. In a grammar lesson, what is my advice before starting to teach the lesson? Introduce the topic, set up the context. Okay. Is it good to show students the grammar similarities between English and Arabic? Yes, of course, if you think they will help. And if you think they are aware of them. Because the problem quite often is that they're not aware. We need to use some Arabic words to explain grammar if you think it's absolutely necessary. It's not so necessary when you're careful and you use the context that you have, the situation that you have, because that will give you all the clues. Yes, of course you use pictures with grammar. Okay. Now, if you will be kind enough to give me a few more minutes, have you got your handout? If you look at the grammar, form, and meaning, that's a handout for teachers. You might want to look at it on your own. But just to really wrap this up, yes, it's handout 1, session 2. Look at number 2. Look at the word work in the following sentences. What changes are made to this word and the words around it? What do these changes do to the meaning of work? Imad works in a bank. Aris worked in a restaurant in Aba last summer. I've been out of work for nearly 2 months now. I'll work in the library if you want to use the office. Anna's been working all weekend, so she's exhausted. We've got one word, work, okay? You can see that it's used as a verb, it's used as a noun in an expression. So this is why we want language to be done in context and in some kind of content, not as single words. So out of work is a chunk, okay? So it's good to learn it that way. But there are changes, yeah? we want the students to see those changes. Do you think they can see them? Could you help them see them? Your warm-up doesn't have to be very long. It depends on what exactly you want to do with it. Particularly if you're going to be presenting language, it's important to get their knowledge, get them to activate their knowledge and to suggest things, to contribute. And in a sense, you can build up the context before you even use it. Okay. If you look at your handouts and you look at handout 2, intermediate students, language practice activities. Okay, you'll have to go through this on your own. I hope it will help you. It explains some things, gives you some guidelines, gives you guidelines for instructions as well. In the very last session, we're going to be dealing with some of the management issues like setting up activities and managing classes, groups, and so on. That's 2. Okay. And then you have 3, teaching vocabulary. Why do you have to apply the deductive? Do you all have to apply the deductive approach with teaching grammar? That's a big question, though, to answer, and our time is up, and I would like to even touch upon vocabulary a little bit, because the principle is the same. We want to deal with vocabulary in context, not through bilingual lists. Bilingual lists can get us into serious trouble. So, again, you have an exchange here, okay? There are words that you want to deal with, but you don't want to deal with them totally isolated, because each word is used in a particular context with other words around it. You want your students to see what they can do. How many verbs in the above dialogue go together with bus? You've got by bus, catch the bus, look for more, catch it. Okay, so in other words, we're looking at collocations. Those are very important in learning vocabulary. If you don't pay attention to that and you don't deal with vocabulary in context, if you look at the next page and it says try the following experiment, can you see, okay, sorry, no, not the next page. I would like you to please have a look at page 4. Right at the end, in a box that is titled A Good-Natured Evening. Does that sound good to you? This is for teachers, yeah? I'm not suggesting that you give this to your students, but it shows the problems that can be caused by transliteration and translation one-to-one. First of all, if you ask students to learn words that way, they will learn them for a while and then forget them. You won't be able to show them how those words are going to be used, if they're going to be used with a preposition, what, which preposition, and so on. And also, they're not going to be able to use them in the correct context. So a good-natured event, does a good-natured event sound correct to you? Do you like the combination? A good-natured event? Or a good-natured evening? Would you use good-natured with evening? Just a thought. And then the text begins. There was thick traffic. all the way from the airport to the town? Can you say sick traffic? Anyone there?
I'm here.
Okay. What would we say? No, we wouldn't say sick traffic. We would say heavy traffic. A lot of traffic, maybe. Okay, I know that you're there. Thank you. Okay. When we eventually arrived at the hotel, it was most late. What's wrong here? Yes, heavy traffic. What about this next one? When we arrived at the hotel, it was most late. The other person is probably so very late or too late for something, but very late. Yes, good-natured evening is a very strange combination. It's not a collocation that you would accept very easily. Luckily, we had phoned up that morning and ordered a room. Can you order a room? No. What can you do with a room in a hotel? Book. Thank you. So the receptionist was waiting for us. We rose to our room. Do you rise to your room? Or do you go up to your room? Go up. We went up to our room and did a shower. Do you do a shower? Do you do a shower, make a shower, have a shower? Take a shower, have a shower. Good. Okay, I'm not going to carry on. But I hope you can see what I'm trying to get at. If students learn words through transliteration, the equivalent in Arabic, okay, and memorize them like that, they don't really get used to anything like collocations, connotations, when to use things, when not to use things, which words they go with, and so on and so forth. This is why we do it. Why do people resort to collocation, to translation and transliteration? Because they think it's easy. Yeah, it's easy for whom? For what? Okay, it's easy for somebody who's maybe studying about the language, but even so, as you can see, there are terrible problems there. So starting as early as possible, it would be a really good idea to get learners to get used to using dictionaries, English to English dictionaries, learner dictionaries. There are so many dictionaries that they can use online as well. So really, there's no need to translate words or to use to learn them as bilingual lists. Okay, and I just before we stop, I just want to say that 4 is an empty grid for lesson planning. So you can jot down things very quickly and gauge the time that each thing is going to take you. Yes, some teachers do it as well. They go for transliteration and bilingual lists. Is it acceptable to use Arabic in explaining grammar for first intermediate? Look, you will use Arabic if you have to deal with something that is impossible to show, demonstrate, illustrate, deal with in the target language, in English, okay? There might be instances like that in first and intermediate, absolutely. But the thing is not to resort to translation all the time, because you might think it's easy the minute you're doing it, but at the end of the day, you're not helping your students learn, and you're certainly not helping them learn the language. Serish, I believe we have to stop. I think our people Will you try in English but no response? Try again. Why do you have to use more Arabic when you're teaching online? Sometimes you do when you're dealing with low levels. Yes, I understand this. Too hard to explain in English, but again, if you're just explaining things in Arabic, you're cutting down, really, you're reducing the time that your students are exposed to the language. Too much effort. Well, it's the effort that we have to put into our work. If we want people to learn how to use this language and use it in a way that is going to make it possible for them to communicate. Yes, mostly, but I'm not taking it to an extreme. Yes, no need for Arabic in class if you can deliver it in another way. But to be reasonable, when you first begin, when you have people who have just come into intermediate, yes, and it's impossible to do much online or in class. And you'll have to spend a whole week trying to do it in English. Of course you're going to explain it in Arabic. So just use it when it's absolutely necessary. Yes, fine, you do it with look, the students might give you the word in Arabic. That's quite normal. Simply because the students very often will give you the Arabic just to confirm that what they understood was correct. Okay, teach them to understand. If you have to change, sometimes you need to change things gradually. I'll go with that. Okay, I'll agree with that. But you need to change it because these students are not simply studying English. Teachers who use English are hostile teachers. Depends on how the teacher uses English. I don't think I've experienced that before. Okay, but if you don't just use English, you use pictures, you use mime, you demonstrate things. Okay, online or in class. If they speak English all the time without any purpose, without involving the students, yes, fine, the students are not going to be interested. I think learning happens in home, not in class. For that, we need to make them more involved in English. I'm sorry, I don't agree. Learning should take place in class. Homework is meant to consolidate what they've learned. But sometimes, yes, you're right, we flip learning and we ask them to do things at home so they can use them in class, but preferably not new language, okay, not new grammar, not new functions, and so on. Okay. So I think we probably have to stop here if people are in a hurry to go. Harish?
Thanks, Tanai. Thank you so much. So I haven't seen in the chat box a time reminder, but I'm guessing, yes, they would have to go. Just scrolling if I missed anything. A lot of engagement with you, actually, in the chat box.
Yeah, okay. Can I just deal with some of the comments that I haven't dealt with? I don't mean homework. I mean we give them guidelines only.
Yes, please.
Fine. Yes, fine. Speaking small words with illustrations will help the students and expose them to the language more. Absolutely. I agree. Okay, somebody was just raising issues to help. Thank you very much for doing that. Using pictures and body language essential for speaking only English. If you're teaching online, pictures, photos, everything, anything you can find on the web to use as part of your material is going to help tremendously. Okay, so what about students who are not interested in learning English, not to mention their families that might not know anything about English or are not interested? Yes, fine, that happens with many subjects, many languages all over the world. What can you do? Well, what I would do with the students is show them some things that concerns teenagers, their age, from the web, of children doing certain things, just to get them interested. If you want to engage students, if you want to motivate them, I avoid word motivate because it's a big word and it requires quite a lot of things and knowledge about your learners, which I'm not saying is bad, it's very, very good. But if you want to really get them interested, you need to address not the target language, not English, but you need to address their abilities, interests, whatever, anything that you think they are interested in. That's the most important thing to find out. And use that to get them involved as much as possible. As for the family, don't rely on the family. That's for everybody. I'm not suggesting that the person who made this comment is suggesting that. As for the family, it would be safer not to rely on the family for help. Because as far as I can tell from what people say, it's the family that insists on translation. It's the family that insists on traditional techniques, which, interestingly, have not helped the family speak English very well, but they're insisting anyway. Okay. Yes, get them involved in English at home, as you suggested, like with the projects, yeah? Get them to find pictures, okay? If you have an artist thinking of multiple intelligences, get them to draw things, to plan the posters, make the posters, look for words, okay? You can do so many things to prepare for that. They prepare it and then they put it together in class or online with your help. Or they do it all outside class. Okay? If you speak English, the students will get used to things, to it. Yes. But if you speak carefully and try to pitch at their level, okay? Teachers, I think, who are considered hostile very often speak at kind of above or address the students using language that is well beyond their level. And that's where they feel lost. I don't know what about translating some words in Arabic? I think we've covered that. If you come across something in a text, speaking or a spoken text or written text, that is very difficult to show, demonstrate, explain in English, then yes, you would have to resort to that. But the point I was trying to make earlier is that it's best avoided, because when we make students think that there is one-to-one correspondence, okay, between words, then we get very funny, strange uses, like the examples that you saw in that text. Okay. I don't know if there are any more questions and comments that we haven't answered. Sarish, have you spotted any?
You've covered a lot of them as they came along. So, but there are some in the Q&A if you want to go over that.
Okay.
Okay. I guess there have been, yes, messages about is the session ended, so we'll end it here. But now we will do the Q&As. So stay back if you want to hear about any questions or any more insights that Danai has to add. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. To those who have to leave, thank you so much.
Okay, one of the thing is our problem as teachers is not with the curriculum or method. It's with the huge number of teachers in each class. How to deal with it?
You mean teachers or students in class?
Number of students in each class.
Right. Okay. I sort of addressed that. No miracle answers at the moment, but if you have large classes, that's exactly when you need to work in pairs and groups. Because basically, just to do a bit of basic maths here. If you have 40 minutes, right? Say you have 40 students, okay? How long do you speak in class? How much of the 40 minutes do you take up? Not getting any answer.
We have 40 minutes.
Yes, thank you. That's a very honest answer. Okay, so the teachers 80% of the time. Thank you. Yes, if you don't try to work in a way that addresses a language in context to help students communicate, to help them learn rather than teach at them, you are not going to allow any time for them to speak. How will they speak at the end? How will they do this? How will they learn the language? And how will they keep on learning? There's no way you can do it. This is why we go for pair work, group work, and we often do it in closed pairs. In other words, we set up pairs groups. They all work in class simultaneously without shouting. We train them not to shout. They can hear each other. To optimize the time, we try to restrict teacher speaking time, okay, and optimize the time that's allowed for the students. So if you have 40 minutes and you try to at least speak for half that time, say, sorry, use videos that explains grammar. Okay, fine. If you say you have 20 minutes left for the students to speak, yeah? If you have 40 students and you want each student to speak individually, say something to you only, not to each other, then that's half a minute per student. If you have how many classes per week? 2? 2 classes per week, that's 1 minute per week. 4 classes per week, okay? That's 2 minutes per week. So if they have 32 weeks of school lessons, maybe more, 36, that's multiply that by 2, you get, 72 minutes of speaking per year. Multiply that by 3 for intermediate. What are you going to get? How many hours of speaking over 3 years? It's impossible. You can't expect students to feel confident enough to use the language in order to express themselves, to communicate, and so on. You don't want students to just be able to do exercises and answer questions in exams. That's disappointing. There's so much more you can do. Nothing is perfect, and nobody is asking for perfection. All we're trying to do is work in a way that is going to help learners learn rather than us teach all the time in a traditional way, as I've been doing through this session. So that's all. Okay, some students are ashamed of speaking, but you encourage them. Yes, of course. That was another point that had come up. Peer pressure. Some of them are afraid to speak because they're afraid that their classmates are going to make fun of them if they make a mistake. A lot of students are very reluctant to imitate pronunciation because they feel embarrassed. There's all sorts of things happening. Encouragement goes a long way. And this is what students need. And the first year intermediate students need that very, very much to support them through the change from elementary to intermediate, I think, more than the rest of them. And then gradually they start getting used to the different stage in life, different world, in a sense that they have entered. I don't know what this means, but what is the problem that the session did not? I can't. Oh, sorry, it's something about connections.
Okay.
I can't see any other.
Speakers.
Sorry, I need to do this. Are you a native Saudi? No. I've spent time in Saudi Arabia, and I had a great time in Saudi Arabia, and I miss being there because I haven't been there for more than 4 years. And that's too long. But no, but I try to learn, I try to find out about people, and I have a lot of respect, time, regard for everybody there, for my colleagues, and it's been wonderful working with people in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And then one of the questions is, for Super Goals series, what are the maximum number of goals that we teach in a 40-minute lesson?
There is no limit one way or another. The goals are what the goals of each lesson are. So, for example, if you're working through listen and discuss, what are your main goals? You have certain vocabulary and you have certain language, grammar in context to deal with. And that's that. So it depends on what you're doing. It depends on whether the primary goal is skills development. Skills work all the way through, yeah? You're basically teaching language through language in use, okay, in context. So it depends on what your lesson is on, but there's never too many goals. And we never expect every student to be able to produce the language perfectly by the end of the, somebody who can't even, who doesn't, by the end of the lesson. That's a bit of a problem. Thank you very much for the welcome. Okay, somebody who can't deal with English script, alphabet. Are you saying that they can't read nor write? Or is the problem mainly with writing? Yes, that would be a bit of a problem in intermediate. But again, I would assume that in the beginning, when they first enter intermediate after elementary, they do need a bit of help with everything. So also, some of the work will probably be a little slower to begin with, and then you can pick up. Then you can work at a faster pace.
And one of the questions is, speakers in the recorded conversations and reading sections speak fast, so students cannot follow them.
Well, that's the way people speak, whether we like it or not, quite honestly. That's connected speech. And that comment about the speakers are speaking too fast is universal. All learners say it about all other language speakers. where it's coming from is the fact that when we speak, we haven't got word boundaries. You know, that's another reason why we don't want to work only through written language. We shouldn't sort of get so traditional with grammar translation that we forget this, because it is important. Speak. We don't stop at the end of each word or each chunk. So we don't say, am I doing this right? We say, am I doing this right? So it's connected. So inevitably, it will sound like very fast. But that's reality. And actually, they're not fast. The speakers on audio are not too fast. That's natural language. Can you read slowly for your students? Initially, maybe. I wouldn't do it all the way through, because they need to get used to language like that, spoken language, which is more natural. Look, the point is that you have it in writing. You also have it on video. If you want to use the video, you have it on audio. If you want to use the audio and get them to follow, explain also that it is connected speech. I think it's going to help. Okay, basically we're going to deal a little bit with that when we deal with listening in the sessions tomorrow.
Okay, I think I'm just checking we've covered most of these. There's a last question. Best strategy to deal with the workbook, please.
There are things in the workbook that you could actually use in class, yeah? And I don't think, that would be a problem at all. But also when you set up homework from the workbook, which I assume you do, it's a good idea to try and go through things orally, online or in class, and then ask your students to complete, okay? When it comes to writing, if there are writing tasks in the workbook, you can select the writing tasks that you think are more appropriate to students and use those instead of other writing tasks. So it is somewhat flexible. I know most people use it for homework, but if you're going to do that, make sure that everybody knows what to do.
I guess time's up now, and I can see a lot of people have to leave and some have left because the attendee number has dropped. There's an interesting comment, and it says, I have fed my mind, now it's time to feed my stomach.
Yes, I understand completely. Please.
Yes. So we'll wrap this session up for today, but thank you so much for joining us for session 2 right now, which was for intermediate teachers. And thank you again. I'm just going to repeat because we've received a couple of emails about login and registrations, and I need your help, by the way. There are 539 people. I need your help in communicating this to your colleagues, please. So for the 2 sessions that are tomorrow, which is session 3 and session 4, you will have to register for these sessions. Please don't email me to ask the link. I cannot provide you the link, unfortunately. All these links are unique. So there is not a common link that I'm able to share. So please, if it's possible for you, can you please use the link after you register? And the link for this session that you attended is not going to work for the session tomorrow. So make sure you have the correct link. If you register, you will receive the link. And if you have already registered, you don't need to register again. So can you see my screen, Danai?
Yes.
Okay, that's the registration link. That's the invite that you've received that has all the sessions. Sorry, I'm really boring now, but just bear with me because we want to help out people and teachers who are struggling with this. You can see we've covered session 1 today in the morning, session 2 today in the afternoon, and tomorrow we have 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Please notice the times at these sessions. And when you go over to the page that's here, which says Learn More to Register, I have clicked here and I have been directed to the registration page. And you can see the 5 sessions that are there for the intermediate teachers. We've covered 2 sessions. Again, notice the timing here. 10th November, 10 a.m., this is done. 10th November, 1 p.m., this is done. You will have 5 links. So there's session 1, session 2, session 3, 4, and 5. The same link is not going to work, I'm afraid, because it's a different time, it's a different day, it's a different session. So you will have to log in using a separate link. How do you do that? I'm going to enter my name, Sarish Shuja. Sorry, I'm trying to go too fast now. Maybe I'm hungry too. Shuja. Notice I wrote the correct spelling as I wanted to appear on my certificate. And then my email address. So whatever is my email address. Notice I did not write this in Arabic because it's not going to, the system doesn't recognize Arabic. And then obviously the correct email address. If your email address has an error or something, then you will not receive this. And then you will have to miss the session. So, and I know you give comments that you really want to attend this. So make sure about 3 things. Correct spelling on the first name, last name, not in Arabic. And the third thing is the email address is correct. The other thing you need to do is to register for the session to receive the link. If you do not register, the link is not, you won't receive it basically. So, and if you've already registered for this session, the one that you attended, you cannot use the same link that for the other 4 sessions. So we're done with this one, correct? We're done with this one. If you have not registered yet, I'll repeat, this is for people who have not registered. And if you have registered, use the link for tomorrow, but use the correct link. So the session time, the date, and the timing are mentioned. So just join, check that before you join. I know it can be very confusing when you have 5 confirmation emails in case you did this together, but make sure you use the right session. One more thing I just want to address, you can register separately. So you notice I have selected session 3. I will hit submit and I will receive the registration link on my email. But a shortcut is, if I want to attend 3, 4, 5, there is a control button on your keyboard, CTRL. Press that and hit all 3 and submit. So that way I don't have to register again and again. No, you cannot send your link to other teachers. Please avoid doing that because that is creating a big deal in terms of certificates and attendee list and everything. So try to avoid doing that. It's very easy process to register. I only request you that if you've understood this, can you please tell your colleagues about it? The tip to this is just check the time and the date. We get a lot of emails that for the afternoon session that I cannot log in, but the reason you cannot log in is because you're using the link for the morning session. So it's not going to work. So just check in your email that you have the correct time, the correct date for the session before you join. So for tomorrow, it should be Wednesday, November 11th, 10 a.m. for the morning session, and for the afternoon session, it would be this. If you've not registered, you can register now. But if you have registered, then try to avoid registering again because you're just taking a seat of your colleague or anything. On Thursdays, we only have 1 session, correct? So if you're going to email me asking me about a link for the afternoon session, we don't have an afternoon session. We just have a morning session on Thursday. I'll stop now because I think that's all for me. Regarding the certificates, you will have this after November 19th. That is when we complete our series. Again, just a tiny bit of help from you. Please tell your colleagues about this. We want everyone to make sure they attend and benefit from this. So I guess that's all from my side.
Thank you. So it's just one comment, one question that I would like to, just one more, because I think it's an important one, a common question about writing the pronunciation of the words in Arabic. Not a good idea. Because the letters, I mean, the Arabic script does not represent exactly the same sounds, does it? I know sometimes kids do it, the students do it for themselves to remember, but it's best to do more ear training, listen and repeat, and so on and so forth. So I would try and avoid it. Okay, I don't think it helps them, and it's sort of they rely on it, and then they have more problems with listening and speaking, and because their expectations are different. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I totally agree. There's a comment there, Zenai. And I guess I've dropped out the handout session link. So a lot of you said that you missed the first session. So can you please share the handout? So you can share these handout links with your colleagues as well. For example, someone who couldn't make it, feel free to share the link with them so at least they can benefit from that. And if you've already registered, you don't need to register again. I'll repeat because people are thinking that they need to register again. You don't need to register again. But if you have not registered, then you have to register tomorrow. The same link is not going to work. I guess that's all. I'm going to drop the link for you quickly. In case you have not registered, you can register here. Hind, perfect. You said you've registered for all 5 sessions. Brilliant. That's a smart move. Then you have all the links. Just make sure you use the correct link to log in, because sometimes you register correct, but when you are trying to log in, you are not looking at the time of the session. So make sure you are looking at the time, date, and everything. There is no link for attendance. Your attendance is automatically marked. Thank you so much, everyone. I guess that's it. We'll see you in the morning then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.